Alright, so it looks like we got another solo. Let's see what it is. Ooh. I love it. Vengence are one of the one of the very few ritual decks I can not fully grasp on because it deals with zombies, and zombies have their own intricacies and full-on way of playing. Oh, this is a long. Okay, that's good. This is a good story, anyways. From what I remember, this is a very nice story. So, because of the way that Vengence are, I never fully built them, nor did I care to build a pure version, because the pure version is just trash. It kind of has to be done with zombie tech. Dark Dead Vengeance. Within the concrete jungle of high-rise buildings, the people hustle and bustle among the sleepless city lights. However, that was a long time ago. A darkness that shrouded the sky above turned the world into one that would never see morning come again. And with the darkness came monsters that threatened the peace of the city. The Revendreads. The Revendreads started as corpses that crawled out of their graves, except their bodies had transformed into something grotesque. Without a single shred of their memories from a past life or any will of their own, they would wander the streets at night and attack any living human or animal in their path, guided only by their instinct. No firearm, tank, or any sort of modern weaponry could defeat these creatures. Yeah, if if none of that works on these things, like you can't just blow them up, humanity's gone. That's it. What's worse, anyone and anything that was unfortunate enough to become a victim of a Vendread would become one themselves. The Vendread threat was like a match thrown into a forest, spreading fear like an uncontrollable blaze. As the undead continued to rapidly multiply, the remaining of flesh and blood scrambled fruitlessly for a solution. So, the Vendread horde soon made their way to the hastily built wall that served as the sole line of defense for the living. Among them was a young man who had lost his life to the undead. He was no different from other Vendreads, wandering the same shrouded city with the same mindlessness. But, as luck would have it, one day as the young man continued to drift about mindlessly, he came across a young woman who had been carried off by the Vendread. His mind had already long faded, or it should have, but as his eyes caught the locket that hung from the woman's neck, something stirred within him. Memories of his past life began to flood into his head in a great, crashing wave. He knew the woman with the pendant before him. She had once been the love of his life. His mind twisted and turned with a desperate sadness as he realized that his love was no longer of this world. That sadness soon boiled over into a seething rage and hatred for the Vendreads that robbed her of her life. As his mind dragged itself out from the bogs of its undead depths, a flame of hatred ignited his heart. The violent burst of emotion tore his body apart with unbearable pain as it began to transform and rebuild itself into something much stronger. When the transformation ended, the man steadied his uneven breath and stood up. God dang. This is actually the longest first portion of a story out of all of them, which is good because I hope that they make these stories a bit longer. He took the locket and hung it around his neck so he could keep the memory of his beloved close by. Then he spoke into the silent night. I swear, I will vanquish every last one of these walking corpses if it's the last thing I'll do. And thus the new agent of vengeance was born. He was the Vendread who would hunt other Vendread. Revendreads Slayer. This was the beginning of the lone Revenger's fierce battle. I don't know why. Just this story is both really cool and kind of funny. In my opinion, it's kind of funny. God. I don't remember this, I remember this card being really it's cool if you could get it out, but it was just no real point in getting them out, in my opinion. I didn't like it more. Even in that day, the living struggled bravely from within the city wall to keep alive. The Vendread horde that pursued the living pushed against the barrier like crashing waves and showed no sign of ever stopping. Their numbers seemed to only be going up, too. They continued to groan and wail deep into the night, day after day. The terror was too much. The citizens were finding it harder and harder to keep sane under these horrific circumstances. But then, a single shadow loomed over the horde. I love this picture. This picture is so cool. Makes him look like a ninja, even though he's not. He's supposed to be a spin-off of the hero archetype, I'm guessing. The shadow darted forth and cut down a Vendread with a single swoop, quick as lightning. But he didn't stop there. Any Vendread that dare stand in his way would be stabbed, hit, kicked, and knocked down. They would have their limbs and rotting flesh torn, twisted, and ripped from their bodies. God dang, they went full on description with this. Thought they were going for PG or something. And once the shadow had finished hunting down every last walking corpse that plagued the city wall, he disappeared back into the darkness as quickly as he had appeared, not even sparing a single moment to look back at the crowd he had just saved. But the Revendreads Slayer was not interested in being a hero. All he wanted was revenge, and he would not stop at anything to destroy any Vendread that entered his line of sight. But regardless of his intentions, the fact was that he had swooped onto the scene like a bolt from the blue and defeated all the Vendreads. To the survivors, he was their single ray of hope. Word of the mysterious undead hunter began to spread quickly through the city. As the nights continued, he too continued his battle. However, the Vendreads weren't going to stand for being hunted down so mercilessly. With the carnage, the undead began to change. Up until now, the humans and animals that turned into Vendreads had stayed about the same physical size as they had been when they passed. That was one of their main reasons the survivors had been able to keep the horde back with just their average human strength. However, now the Vendreads were being pursued by a relentless executor in the form of Revendreads Slayer. They began to feel threatened. Some of them even began to merge with each other to create a bigger Vendread. Few words could describe how grotesque it looked, and people began to name it after a certain multi-headed beast of legend. They called it the Vendread Chimera. The creature would threaten the safety of the people beyond the wall for many more nights. It possessed the powers and strengths of numerous Vendreads, and even the Slayer was beginning to have trouble fighting it. Every time they battled, the Slayer would only just manage to fight it off. He was never successful in completely silencing it. However, the more they fought, the more weaknesses were uncovered. The Slayer found that within the Chimera, there lay a core that governed all its actions. The Slayer charged at the core and threw all his strength into it, destroying it. And finally, the Chimera crumbled into a pile of rotting flesh and bones. At first, it seemed that the Slayer's do-or-die attack had ended things once and for all, with the agglomeration, sorry, I was trying to figure out the word, of animosity that was the Chimera, but the tragedy could only further unfold from here. The clash of the undead would only escalate further and further into something beyond human comprehension. All the survivors could do was to pray one day the Vendread would be vanquished and dawn would break once more over their city. Alright, here we go. I wonder why there's a third duel. I mean, I didn't think it was that popular. Oh. Huh. And that means... But why? Why would you do that? That's weird. Okay, sure. Hero emerges. Yeah, sounds about right. Alright, so with Vengence, from what I remember, most of the time, or most of the effects you get are from Vengence that are already on the field. So you get effects by using them as rituals. Based on ritual monsters, if you choose a non-ritual Vengread monster on your field to tribute for ritual summon, the ritual summon monster gains additional effects. Consume the power of the Vengread. Yeah. The unfortunate thing is they have to be on the field. And that's what held the deck back. But to be fair, I feel like it would have probably been busted if it didn't have that. Because some of these effects are really good. If a Vengread monster such as Vengread Hoardhound is distributed from the field to ritual summon, the gains a special effect. The attack of the opponent's monster is 0. Yeah. Deal with them by using the ritual monster that gained the effect listed on the Vengread Hoard. Okay. The Hound Horde is this one. Let's see. A Vengread monster ritual summon. Okay, so yeah, that makes sense. This is the only reason I feel a lot of people didn't really get too much into the Vengreads. Too much, like, it was a very minor amount, mostly zombie players, but, and a couple ritual people, I would assume. But because of the way that the effects work for the main deck, it was just kind of eh. So it felt kind of lackluster compared to what it could have been. And then they came out with support for it, which made it feel better for sure. Due to having used Vengread Hound Horde that was on the field, in effect, to banish a spell or trap on the field. Let's try activating that effect. I love these, like, use this tributed monster, and when the tributed monster is used for a ritual summon, give the monster that was summoned an effect. Those are my favorite types of stuff. Banish to... Oh, okay, that's right. Gains attack. That's not bad. Okay, now for the real duel. Now, usually I would, yeah. Shuffle Reborn, interesting. Usually I would just kind of skip these, but I think I'll actually go through this because I got a request like a couple of weeks ago about like doing a loner deck challenge or whatever. And And that's what made me start doing the loner solos. So I figured if I'm gonna tell or you know, do the story on this, might as well do these, because otherwise if somebody requests it for like me to do the full things, I'd have to redo some of these. Okay, discard a card, add a Vendread monster. Yes. We're gonna get rid of Stygians, add to hand. Where are you? There you are. Vendread Slayer. What's card is sent to the graveyard? You can reveal one Vendread card in your hand, special summon this, but banish it when it leaves the field. After damage battles an opponent's monster, you can draw one card, then discard. That's not bad. We're gonna reveal. Okay. Just kind of place him here. And we'll end turn, because not much I can really do at the moment. Once per turn, when your Vengence monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can banish one Vengence monster from a graveyard and attack an opponent's monster again. Okay, that's not bad, I guess. Let's discard Mizuki, I guess. Add to hand. Let's go with the zombie. And then let's see. Banish, then target one monster in your graveyard for summon that target. Yes, please. And because of that, that will now get banished, but tribute a monster for a tribute summon opponent controls, even though you don't control them. This doesn't turn if a zombie monster. Yeah. That doesn't sound too bad. I know Vampire Sucker is like one of the main zombie supports, other than like Oni or whatever. Oh, I can do that again. Draw a card. That actually sounds pretty good. Awesome. Target one face-up monster your opponent controls that has a level tributed, and if you do, from an Vengence token. Tribute monster's original level while this effect is on the field, you cannot normal. Interesting. Go ahead and battle 18. Oh, you know what? I should have attacked with Slayer first. I forgot that he has the bird's Yugioh's effect. Yeah, I didn't think it activated if I don't destroy a monster. Not yet. Now. We'll go on defense. Face-up attack. Dude, that really sucks. Having that happen to you. Nah, this is a game, my guy. I'm gonna do this only because I want to use Yugioh's effect. Nice. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this. Yep, there it is. Discard a card from hand. We'll go with this one. Oh, shit. I can attack with it again? That's so stupid. I love that. I'm so glad that they're not playing an actually good deck. Sombrio. Okay. Here we go. The big dude. One of the actually really good ones. After a long, bitter struggle, Revendread Slayer would finally destroy the Vendread Chimera threat. No one could predict that this defeat would only bring more dreadful threats. One day, the Slayer felt a menacing presence like never before, overflowing with an unabating grudge. He immediately headed towards it, determined to find the source. He saw that the wall had been broken through, even though it had been held up well against the Chimera threat. The wall and the scavenged armor vehicles that were taken to the brunt of the attacks were destroyed, and countless people were found slain. The Vendread horde had a different leader now. It was much larger than the Chimera had been, and was clad in heavy armor. Enveloping it was a thick and ominous aura of resentment. Oh, he has one eye. I thought he had multiple. It was Vendread Battlelord, and it had been born from the grudges of all Vendread that Slayer had defeated. That sounds kind of stupid, but alright. Their collective hunger for vengeance against the Slayer had combined into a frightening force, and wherever the Battlelord went, it would leave a trail of death and destruction behind. It was one lone fighter's wish to eradicate the Vendread against the Horde's desire to crush their executor. Their rage came to a head, and thus another clash to the death began. The Battlelord's might was far more tremendous than the Slayer could have ever imagined. Not only could it absorb the surrounding Vendread, but also those who had their lives at the scene. The Battlelord had a steady supply of fodder, and it only grew more powerful as time went on. No matter how strong the Slayer's desire for revenge was, his blade stood no chance against his foe. Yeah. He pushed and tried everything he could to gain the upper hand, but in the end, he was overwhelmed by the Battlelord's immense strength. Sounds like he's gonna need... Oh, yeah. Was this one anima? Why? Like, what? Why? Stop giving us this. Give us actually good packs. We don't need that. That's trash. Trash. Okay. Revendread's Slayer lay limp on the ground, wounded and battered like he was a rag doll that had been flung aside. Vendread Battlelord picked up the small hunter in its enormous hand. Then, just as it had done to the other Vendreads and the fallen victims, it reached its other hand towards the Slayer's chest to absorb its powers. The Slayer's consciousness was sinking into nothingness fast, but then the faint glint of his locket caught his eye. That tiny gleam was enough to remind him that his mission was not yet over. With his conviction renewed, the flame in his heart lit up once more. No wound on his body could stop him now. The Slayer mustered all the strength he had left, and right before the Battlelord could absorb his powers, he plunged his hand into the Vendread's chest and ripped out its core. Holding the core of the Slayer began to feel a new surge of energy. His body was absorbing the hatred power that the Battlelord had possessed. The tides were turning, with the Battlelord's power flowing into the Slayer. Now its body started to crumble. However, just as the Slayer began to think the fight was finally over, the core, struggling from survival, brushed against the Slayer's pendant with a stray hand. The Battlelord's remains, along with the Vengence that surrounded him, began to transform. They all began to take on the form of the woman that the Slayer cherished in his previous life. With a single touch of the locket, the core had sensed the remaining dregs of the Slayer's love and sought to destroy his morale with it. The Slayer froze. Was this a dream? No. This was no dream. He shook his head, trying to remind himself that the love of his life was already gone. This was a nightmare that was trying to ensnare him. He balled his fists in anger. How dare these scum disgrace the memory of his beloved? Yep, here it is. And his burning rage surged and finally exploded. He found himself transforming into a new form with stronger powers. He had become Revendread Executor. I don't know why I said it that way. It was kind of stupid, but whatever. Alrighty. Let's see how to get these sleeves. So now that they give us Revendread Executor, we have to go into Revendread and then Ritual Summon with Executor. So let's see how this goes. This actually does not look like a good hand. How do I get this back again? Discard tribute summoned. If Revendread Slayer you control will be destroyed by battle card effect you manage. Alright, whatever. Alright, so we got Executor, which is an 8. This card's name becomes Revendread Slayer while on the field. While the ritual summon card is on the field, your opponent cannot target cards you control. Ba ba ba. Okay. It's just a level 1. Is there one that searches? You can reveal one Vengence card in your hand, special summon this card. Field. This card is in your graveyard, you can banish one other. Special summon this card. Yikes. I have no idea which one I want to go for. I'm just going for this one. Yeah, might as well. No harm done. I'm sorry. From your hand or graveyard. Yeah. No need for that right now. We'll just leave it right there. I honestly don't see me winning this one right now, because of how bad of a hand this kind of was. Ugh. Use the effect of let's cards use through graveyard. Ritual from your hand to graveyard. You can also Wait, what? You must also tribute monsters from your hand. If rendered Slayer you control will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can manage this card. Okay. Card is in your graveyard. let's see. I have a 3, and I need another 3. Or a 4. A 4 can work. Alright, let's see. What would you get? Once per turn, you can target one special summon. No. You can target one spell trap and controls. Banish it. Yes, please. There we go. Awesome. Please don't be the zombie. Ooh. That is... It's 24. If it helped me do piercing, maybe. Actually, not even then. That's all we had. Thanks. Let me just add, I don't know, Executor? This doesn't actually seem too hard. I thought I was at a disadvantage, but they're not doing too much. Ah, there we go. Never mind. I know I should be like putting that down later, but nah. Let's just attack this one. Nope. Yes, please. Let's banish. What does this one do? Your opponent not target discard will card effects. Nah. Okay. They really tried to stop me from doing that. They're like, nah, you don't get to hit me this turn. He's like, nah, I do. What do you got? Riveting. Discard one card, then target one Vengence monster and one ritual spell in your graveyard. Special summon that monster in defense, and if you do, add that ritual spell to your hand. That sounds pretty nice. Yes. Please. Cards in your graveyard, you can discard one Vengence card, special summon. Let's go ahead and do this. I'm gonna go for the Knights. We're gonna go for this one, this one, this one. Hey, here we go. Executor. This card's name begun. Okay, while on the field, while this ritual summon cards on the field, your opponent can target card. This. So he doesn't really do too much. He's just a big beady. Yeah, just beefy. I don't know why I said beady. It's so weird. Okay. Special summon. There we go. Easy. Hell, I even got to beat it with the monster that's supposed to be beating him. He didn't even get Battle Lord out. That's how bad that deck is. Awesome. Looks cool. How much is this? It's gonna be dark, isn't it? Yikes. It's actually pretty pricey in a sense. I'm wondering if we're just basically gonna have infinite amounts of these dark orbs. Like, it's never gonna matter as long as you played through some of the story, or like all the stories, you're good. I have no idea. But let's finish this. It's time for Vengence Daybreak or whatever. Fueled only by his scorching hatred, Revendread Executor swooped through the horde and cut down the false figures of his beloved one after another. He had been fighting his foes for days that could no longer be counted all alone, and after absorbing Vengence Battlelord, his grudge only grew bigger with the Vengence power. It was barely being kept in balance with his human heart. His mind and body had long been pushed past their limits. It was already a miracle that he was able to exist with both life and death in one vessel. It doesn't matter anymore if what remained of his humanity faded or if his body fell apart. Nothing could stop him now. All he had on his mind was to fight and fight and fight. He threw everything he had into this single desire. Then, at long last, the Vengence horde moved no more. The battle had finally come to a close. The rays of the sun broke through the dark veil of the sky, illuminating the Slayer. Just how long had this war waged on for? The city survivors squinted, unaccustomed to the bright light. But, oh, what a joyous sight it was. No one ever thought they would see the end of those eternal nights. But here the sun was in all its glory. The Slayer could feel his body fading with the light. He bent over to pick up the locket that had been taken from around his neck. All the Vengence had been defeated, and the darkness that engulfed the city was gone. But at the end of the day, he too was a Vengence, and now it was his time to go. Now that the undead threat had passed with the endless nights, the survivors were able to return to their peaceful lives. However, the grief of losing so many lives left an unmendable hole in their hearts. A lot of the survivors also developed a fear of the night and would be plagued by nightmares of the horrors they had faced. Unbeknownst to them, a single shadow watched over them from atop the glowing skyscrapers. Just like he had saved the city, the survivors had saved him. Although the Slayer had set out for revenge, he had still saved countless lives, and they all celebrated him as their hero. They were able to hold on to hope because of this lone fighter, and as the Slayer was slipping into the darkness and the fateful day, the survivor's kind heart had pulled him back. Thus, he was able to remain in the mortal world without disappearing like the other Vengence. In the world, if the world ever fell to darkness again, if monsters threatened the lives of people again, he would surely swing his blade for them once more, but this time without the resentment he once harbored in his heart. If that time ever came, he would fight not for vengeance, but for peace, and to give the people courage and hope when they needed it. That's pretty nice. Okay, so essentially the Link monster that they made for Vengence, I think it was like a Vengence or something like that. Vengence or whatever. Is it here? Ah, here we are. A Vengence Savior. Yep, there it is. Target one Vengence card in your graveyard, add it to your hand. Not bad. During damage calculation, if the card battles an opponent's monster, you can send one. It's basically Revendreads Slayer. just with a different effect and kind of weaker. But yeah, like Uni Zombie, kind of necessary. Because you're playing zombies, you're playing Doom King Bald Rush. No, not King Servants. Zombie World can be played. I don't know if that one is, but it is cool. I like the story. It's definitely a fun one. It's enjoyable. If you enjoyed the story or the storytelling or whichever, go ahead and leave a like. I do the readings of the solo mode. That way you don't have to journey throughout the rest of the whole thing just to find out the story. And I also help out. I like to think I help out with the loner decks and trying to understand them. I play them until I win, and then give a brief synopsis of what I believe the way to win with the loner decks is. Sometimes it's just repeat, repeat, repeat until you get a good hand. Can't help it. But other times there is an actual game plan. Anyways, if you're interested in any of that, go ahead and subscribe. If you're interested in listening to more or finding out more about the Loner Decks videos, or leave a like if you thought this was entertaining. Have a good day, have a good night, evening, the other one's fine.